Good evening and welcome back to another Fantasy Football Fix daily price change predictions video. My name is FPL Nacho and this is the series where we discuss potential FPL price changes to help you build that essential team value. Now, of course, game week 13 may have just gone, but we have game week 14 coming up, only 24 hours away. So we have plenty to discuss in this video, and it's going to include plenty of notable price rises. It includes some Liverpool players and a Watford forward who is definitely on a lot of people's radar. So guys, as always, we use the fantasyfootballfix.com website, the leading FPL platform. So if you want to win those mini leagues or improve that overall rank, then head over to fantasyfootballfix.com or download the free app. Links are in the bio. And if you want to support the channel, make sure you like the video, hit that subscribe button, and with daily content dropping, you don't want to be missing a thing over this winter period, so hit that notification bell. So without further ado guys, let's get started. Okay guys, we're going to kick off this video in usual fashion discussing the potential price changes going into game week 14. And as usual, you can see in the graphics around me all of the key information, but I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about some important players that are rising and falling in price tonight. And first off, we got to kick off with Diogo Jota, who is predicted to rise in price again to 7.8 million. So his progress bar is currently 125%. As you know, once it exceeds 100%, we do have that then predicted to rise in price, and rising at 4.4% per hour. With that progress, we think that he is definitely going to be rising in price tonight. So if you are looking at him as a potential target for game week 14 and you can't afford to lose out on that 0.1 price rise, might be the time to pull the trigger tonight and wait, obviously, and not miss out on that potential rise. Now, another few players that are potentially rising in price tonight, two forwards who are a little bit in the budget end, is going to be Newcastle Saint-Maximin, who is currently rising at 1.8% per hour. So again, we do have him over the 100% progress bar threshold, potentially rising to 6.9 million tonight. Now, of course, with the fixtures coming up for Newcastle, we know that they have two important home fixtures that they need to win to give themselves any chance going into the Christmas period of relegation survival. Of course, we know that, and Eddie Howe is going to be, I think, encouraging that attacking play. So Saint-Maximin going forward could be a nice differential move, currently at 17%. I know it's not the lowest percentage, but I do think that that is a nice differential going into that period over the two. And another player that is rising in price tonight is Watford's King. Now, of course, picking up another goal in game week 13, and at 4.7% ownership really is the key differential going into game week 14. And with his progress bar over 100%, we have him predicted to rise to 5.7 million tonight. So that is definitely another one that I know a lot of managers have on their radar. It might be worth making the move early ahead of game week 14. Now, another few that are potentially rising in price tonight, again, I'm just picking out the main key talking points, is going to be Trent Alexander-Arnold. We could see him go to 8 million tonight, the first defender to hit that bracket. And again, with his recent returns, another 9-point haul in game week 13, currently over the 100% threshold, we have him to rise in price tonight. And with Liverpool's fixtures going forward and the form that they're in, I still think even at 8 million, he's still very good value. And Conor Gallagher has been very impressive at Crystal Palace, of course. Obviously, not the best result for Crystal Palace in game week 13, but we know their fixtures over the next 6 are very good. He can still be good value, potentially rising to 6.2 million tonight. Now, a few notable price fallers, and surprisingly, we're going to be seeing Cristiano Ronaldo on that kind of threshold of potentially falling in price tonight. Now, again, it's worth noting, if there are a lot of wildcards activated, we know they do not contribute towards potential price changes. So that is going to be very close, that one, whether he does fall in price. But clearly, with the benching in game week 13, managers are a little bit cautious about him going into the coming game weeks. But personally, I think that he is going to be featuring heavily over the Christmas period, and I would not be surprised to see him start in game week 14. So potentially falling to 12.3 million. And another premium forward that might be falling in price again tonight is going to be Arsenal's Aubameyang. Obviously missing that absolute howler in front of goal in game week 13 against Newcastle. Potentially falling to 9.8 million tonight. And with Newcastle's fixtures coming up, obviously the tricky game week in game week 14, and with the fixture swings for the likes of Harry Kane right now and Ronaldo, I do think that Aubameyang over the coming game weeks might see him definitely fall in price while managers look to go on to other premium forwards available. So that's the highlight of kind of the potential price changes tonight, guys. let's go a deep dive on a few particular players that I know you're going to want to know much more about. Okay guys, so in this section we are going to be comparing Josh King of Watford against Allan Saint-Maximin of Newcastle. And I know a lot of the players that I mentioned in that potential price change were premium assets. However, I really do think right now a lot of managers are in the same boat where in order to accommodate these premium assets, we're having to sacrifice in different areas to basically free up the funds. And that's why I think it's an interesting discussion for us to have Josh King versus Saint-Maximin. King currently at 5.6 million, Saint-Maximin at 6.8 million. So about 1.2 million difference between the two. As I mentioned, King predicts to rise in price tonight alongside Saint-Maximin. So I really do think that it's worth a discussion here because I know a lot of managers right now trying to free up the cash. So gone over to the player heat map section over on fantasyfootballfix.com for us to really delve into the underlying stats. Now, as you can see here, Saint-Maximin has played slightly more minutes than Josh King, 1,161 compared to 820 of Josh King. And Saint-Maximin just leading the way on FPL points with 57 in comparison to King's 51. But the points per game is slightly in Josh King's favour, 4.6 to Saint-Maximin's 4.4 there. So still very, very close between the two. Now, we're going to come down here into the touch heat map section on fantasyfootballfix.com. And we can see there that it's no surprises that Josh King's touches in and around the box are predominantly higher than Saint-Maximin's. And that's natural because of the positions that both are operating in their teams. Saint-Maximin, Callum Wilson naturally being the centre forward in that Newcastle team. Saint-Maximin operating either as a front two or on the left or right hand side of him. So naturally getting more down the flanks and creating spaces for Callum Wilson. Whereas Josh King being much more the focal point in that Watford attack. And as you can see, there are plenty of touches around that penalty spot where we like to see them, especially at its price point right now in the game. So in terms of the touch maps right now, both very, very promising. But in particular, Josh King's gets some great touches in and around the box at that price point. Now, if we come down here, we can see general underlying stats for both players. So I want to bring it all the way down here into the total statistics section, just so we can get a real great comparison between the two players. Now, as you can see there, although Josh King has played less minutes than Saint-Maximin, he's actually scored more goals, 5 compared to Saint-Maximin's 3. And expected goals is something that's really impressive. I know it's caught a lot of managers' eyes right now, is 5.8 expected goals in comparison to Saint-Maximin's 2.66. So already at his price point of 5.6 million, for a player to score 5 goals is brilliant value. But for him to actually exceed that of his expected goals at 5.8 just shows that he's getting into some brilliant areas in this Watford side. And it's worth mentioning as well, being on penalties for this Watford team is just another added string to his bow, and something that I really think is worth considering when we compare the two assets, because as we know, likelihood is Callum Wilson will be on penalties for Newcastle. Now we see there the shots, Saint-Maximin just winning that department 2 more than Josh King, but again, shots on target and importantly shots in the box go towards Josh King, and that kind of backs up the touch heat map that we were seeing from Josh King. Now again, what I was quite surprised at this was Saint-Maximin being more of a creative influence in the Newcastle team. I was kind of expecting the expected assists and attempted assists to be significantly higher than Josh King, but it really isn't the case. We can see 2 goal assists for Josh King, 3 for Saint-Maximin, but at the expected assists, 2.18 for Saint-Maximin and 2 for Josh King. So really very little between the two, and something where I really thought Saint-Maximin would be dominating Josh King in particular. Now, worth mentioning, over the coming game weeks, I've looked at our projected points on Fantasy Football Fix for the next 4 game weeks. And we can see that Josh King is predicted to score 14 points. Saint-Maximin, on the other hand, 13.9. So it's very, very interesting between the two because they kind of projected to score points at different intervals. So Josh King, next 2 game weeks is Chelsea at home and Man City at home, followed by Brentford away and Burnley away. So a very tricky 2, followed by a decent 2 fixtures. Saint-Maximin, on the other hand, has 2 brilliant upcoming fixtures with Norwich at home and Burnley at home, followed by Leicester, Liverpool and Man City. So we are projecting both of these players to score quite well over the next 4, but at very different points. Now, just looking at those next 2 fixtures, we have Saint-Maximin to score 8.1 points and Josh King to score 5.9. So as I mentioned, in the short term over the next 2, we think Saint-Maximin is probably going to outscore Josh King. But over the longer term, over the next 4, we do have Josh King just to outscore Saint-Maximin. So in conclusion to this, guys, we can see from the underlying stats here, I really do think that Josh King is offering the value that we really want to see at that price point. And at 5.6 million, 1.2 million cheaper than St. Maximin, although we might not see the returns over the next 2 game weeks, I really do think over the longer term, when you're getting an opportunity like this at a cheap striker who takes penalties, I don't think it's an opportunity that you can pass up on. So if you are looking for a cheap option in your side in the front line, I really think Josh King is still the man for your teams. Okay guys, last up I just wanted to quickly look at the projected points over on fantasyfootballfix.com for the next 5 game weeks for forwards. And the main reason being is because we know tonight we might see the price fall of Cristiano Ronaldo and Aubameyang, to name a few. And I think right now for those owners that are currently sat on players like this, and then we're going to include the likes of Jamie Vardy's, Antonio's and even Harry Kane's, I think doubt is coming into a lot of these premium assets, whether it is worth holding them or jumping onto another player. I think when we look at the projected points over the next 5 game weeks, I really do think, apart from Aubameyang, if you do own Ronaldo, Vardy, Antonio, even Harry Kane, you have basically the right to hold them for the foreseeable future. Now, when we look at Cristiano Ronaldo, as I mentioned, potentially falling in price tonight. And yes, while game week 14, he's only projected to score 4.3 points. And again, minutes, people are doubting the minutes right now. But after game week 14, we can see there 6.65, 5.6, 4.7. Some of the best fixtures for Man United begin from game week 15 onwards. So if you're currently sat there with Ronaldo and you might be tempted by a sideways move to the likes of Harry Kane with that attractive home fixture in game week 14, I think we need to look a bit more longer term over the Christmas period, because those free transfers become so important and we need to look over the longer term. So that's why I think if you are sat there with Cristiano Ronaldo, having been benched in this Chelsea fixture, I think it's only a benefit for him going forward. And I really do think that if you are an owner, holding him over the foreseeable future is the right move. Now, the reason I want to compare against other premium forwards is because I know a lot of managers right now got rewarded with Jamie Vardy for holding him over such a barren spell. And again, I think that managers now are probably looking at Harry Kane's great fixture in game week 14 or even Ronaldo's long-term form. But I really do think that we can have forwards and really spread them out across the game. So a lot of managers are going to be owning Ronaldo, but I really do think if you own Vardy, you don't need to be scared to go other directions. You can see there 25.2 predicted points over the next 5 game weeks. So making that sideways move to Ronaldo, I don't think is necessarily going to be paying dividends over this period. So again, if you're sat there with Jamie Vardy, I wouldn't be too worried right now. I would probably say to hold on to him over this period. Now, Antonio is the really interesting one right now. Been blanking a lot recently, and a lot of managers are questioning whether to sell him or not. But again, when we look at him over the next 5 game weeks, game week 14, I know, was the area where managers were really highlighting as potentially his last game for them, because in game week 15, a tricky fixture against Chelsea, and only projected to score 3.4 points. But then after that, we know the fixture swing changes for West Ham. 5.4 projected points, 4.3, and then 6.9. So again, I really do think if you are sat there with Antonio and you can't get up into the likes of Ronaldo or Jamie Vardy, I think holding him is the best move to make because of this winter period. The projected points are so close between these forwards. I think holding on to your forward and being very comfortable in that decision is actually going to pay itself in the longer term. And last up, we need to talk about Harry Kane. Again, no projected price rise or fall, but again, probably the most desirable asset over the next 2 game weeks with that postponement. We know they're going to be coming in fresh for the 2 home fixtures. And that's probably why a lot of managers right now are comfortable holding him. And again, this is why it makes it such an interesting topic right now in FPL, because I really do think if you own Harry Kane, I've been bigging up the likes of Jamie Vardy and Ronaldo, but you won't want to sell Harry Kane over the next 2, that is for sure. But then from game week 16, we can see there, then the options open up for the likes of Ronaldo or Jamie Vardy. So to kind of touch on that, guys, as I mentioned, I think this has become a very interesting time for us over the December period. I think a lot of managers have been scrambling around for forwards, trying to pick 1 or 2 and really piling on the midfielders. But I really do think over the next 5 or 6 game weeks, we're going to see a real division between where managers go with their money. We haven't even discussed about Lukaku, but I think if you're a Ronaldo owner, I think you stick. If you're a Jamie Vardy owner, I think you can comfortably stick. And again, if you're a Harry Kane owner, definitely sticking over the next 2 could then change your mind over the foreseeable future. So I really do think this is going to be a very interesting period over the Christmas period. And let me know in the comments, guys, who is your forward going into this period, and are you going to be sticking with them or doing a sideways move? Okay guys, that's going to wrap up today's Fantasy Football Fix daily price change predictions video. Really hope that is providing some value, and of course with such a quick turnaround, content is going to be coming thick and fast. So if you do want to stay tuned to this channel, make sure you like the video, and importantly hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single video coming up. I would really recommend hitting that notification bell with daily content dropping. You don't want to be missing a thing, in particular those price changes. And as always guys, all the information is taken from fantasyfootballfix.com, the leading FPL platform. So if you want to win those mini leagues or improve that overall rank over such a busy period, then be sure to head over to fantasyfootballfix.com or download the free app. All the links are in the bio. So all I can do guys is wish you best of luck going into game week 14. Plenty of content coming over the next week, so be sure to check it out. All the best. Cheers.